I know I've said this like a million times, and I'm going to tell it to you again. It doesn't matter what you're doing. It matters that you're spending your time doing something, because that's what law schools care about. They care about basically your maturity and your ability to execute and actually commit to law school. And the way that they're trying to tease that out, especially if you're an applicant going straight out of undergrad, is what are you doing with your spare time when you have it? Hey guys, so today I want to talk about the best or the sort of ideal internships and extracurriculars that you as a pre-law student, arguably for any grad program, but I'm going to focus here on law, should be doing and looking out for an undergrad to set yourself up for success in getting into the best law school. So I want to make one thing clear off the bat, which is that there's, again, similar to what I told you guys in the last video about college majors, there's no such thing as the sort of best internship or work experience to get into law school. Whether you do something at the White House that's very prestigious or an unpaid internship at a nonprofit, experiences are diverse, experiences are good. The more important thing to focus on, as we're going to talk about, is that you do something with your time. But I want to make clear at the very beginning, law school admissions offices are not looking and saying, oh, this one's better than this one, this one's better than this one. There's a little bit of that, and we'll talk about that, but by and large, what matters more is that you're spending your time doing something. So as I just said, the thing that you should focus on with spending your time in undergrad, in the summers, in the semesters, whatever it is, you want to spend your time doing something. Okay, it doesn't need to be the most prestigious internship, doesn't need to be even paid, but try to spend your time doing something that is productive, ideally something in the more professional realm, like an actual job or an internship, not necessarily like a leadership position in a school club. That is good, and in a perfect world you can do both. But if there's a sort of prioritization stack, I would say do the thing that is an official organization, job or role, as opposed to a leadership position in some sort of club or student-run organization. Now, if you want to talk rankings in terms of the sort of best things on your resume for applying to law school and what are these top internships, the more competitive the internships, the better. So I think if you do things at higher level government organizations like the White House, the Supreme Court, maybe even your state senator, things that are kind of name brand and sexy, right? Or on the business side, like let's say you go into Bain Consulting, Bank of America investment banking, right? Or in tech, you work at Google, you work at Meta, right? Like what are the name brand companies? Any sort of internship that's going to be perceived as very competitive, those are going to be the ones that sort of look the best from a law school admissions standpoint. On timing for these internships, summer is usually going to be your best friend here. You don't need to do something over your summer, but look, like if you're not taking classes, that's the best time to do it because you have nothing else going on. In a perfect world, you can do it both, right? Spring, fall, and summer. But I think summer should be your main focus because that's the time that you really have the most bandwidth for the most part. And it's also when a lot of these programs open up the floodgates to new interns, be it at companies or government side. Now, if you can't land one of these top or more competitive internships, that's totally fine. Let's talk about like the next tier in our prioritization stack, if you can get it. Law firms or things related to the law. So an internship at a major law firm is great. Smaller firm is also good. Government and something in the courts, like an externship, also really good. Basically anything that is in the field of law that you can show and demonstrate, yes, I actually know what I'm getting into by applying to law school. Yes, I actually know what it is that lawyers do because I worked at a law firm. And on your personal statement, you can talk about this as well and say, look, I did this thing in law and that is partially why I'm interested, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But so basically, and of course, the more competitive, the better, right? If you go to the best law firm, Cravath or Scan, whatever, that's going to look great because those are name brand and people recognize those law firms. But that's okay if you don't, just as long as it's in the field of law in general. I would put those as sort of the second tier of prestige and prioritization if you can get them. Other things that are worth your time, research positions with professors, I think is one of the most slept on types of work that you can do that usually not that hard to get, and you can do it over semesters too. When I was an undergrad, I did research under political science and economics professors, and it's a couple hours a week, but you get it on your resume, you work directly with graduate students. It's just a really good way to build a relationship with a professor, and it's also really good on your resume. So look to see what your universities offer by way of research positions. Other than that, I think the more work experience you can get in general, working at nonprofits, doing something that's a paid job, paid usually looks better than unpaid simply because the perception is that it's more competitive to get a paid position than unpaid. It doesn't matter what you're doing. Okay, I know I've said this like a million times, and I'm going to tell it to you again. It doesn't matter what you're doing. It matters that you're spending your time doing something because that's what law schools care about. They care about basically your maturity and your ability to execute and actually commit to law school. And the way that they're trying to tease that out, especially if you're an applicant going straight out of undergrad, is what are you doing with your spare time when you have it? I'm going to put this in its own bucket because I do think it kind of belongs in its own bucket, but leadership positions and sort of extracurricular activities like for fun, put that aside as its own bucket. And I think this is anything from like, I was on a dance team in undergrad, right? Or joining like a political organization like the Democrats or the Republicans of your college, whatever it is, that's fine. And those are good. And taking on leadership roles, like that's good. It's not as good as doing an official research position with a professor or doing an internship or working for the state, doing, something with your congressperson. I know it's fun and it's great experience in life, but I do think that admissions offices weigh those things a little bit less than the more official positions. So just keep that in mind. So it's great, in my opinion, not as sort of prestigious and sexy. One last thing I want to make clear on this. Law schools like people who are unique. Law schools like people who have special or certain interests that are out of the norm, right? And so this path that I've laid out and these things that we've discussed, that's fine. That's one sort of path that you can take. But you're by no means limited to that path. You can go out and start a TikTok channel, start a YouTube channel, work with an NFT company, right? Like whatever it is, it matters less what you're doing and more that you're doing something. And if you do something unique, that's even better because law schools like people who are unique. They think it's interesting. It'll help you sell your brand better when you apply as an applicant. And so follow your passions to some extent in this process too, right? Don't feel confined to doing things related to law or policy. Law schools care a little bit about that, but ultimately they just want people who are interesting, mature, responsible, smart to some extent, however they define that. And that's not limited to just working in policy or in business or in government. That's it for me, guys. Thank you for your time as always. Make sure to like and subscribe or leave a comment if you have a question. And show me some love if you feel like it. Much love as always.